The day my boss won tech support. I mostly lurk, but boys, girls in NB story had to be told. Some minor context: we do software support for a thing that's used by essentially everyone. We may go from a call with a mom and pop running everything on an underpowered ancient SBS 11, to a multinational running 10,000 server instances in their own cloud, and have to unscrew whatever stopped doing the thing we're supposed to do on our thing. Not germane to this story, but germane to the ticket. We're not rocket scientists, but we see all kinds of stuff, in all kinds of setups, and everyone came up as a tech first. We're of course, all remote. So Teams, and bloody internet access is life. Middle of the day, my boss and I lose Teams. We're coordinating about 20 people and interfacing with a couple other departments on moderately important things. No big deal. 10 minutes later, she pops back into chat. /i.s.p. Known for being jerks didn't believe me. They effed around and found out. She'd done what any of us would do. Already run basic diags and tracerts and knew precisely what had happened, mind you, before she ever called. The Tier 1 call lasted 1 minute 15 seconds as they established that the T1 didn't know what a tracert was, and he handed her off to T2. The T2 call lasted somewhat longer, as they made the mistake of debating whether her knowledge of enterprise-level routing was relevant, and she was forced to explain the finer points of the OC model to them. They thought they'd placed her on hold. Oops. So she heard the quick discussion of who best in T3 could shut this Karen down. This gave her enough time to backchannel another tech of ours who had come from /i.s.p, known to be jerks a few years ago, and find out the name of the T3's current lead. By the time he came on the call, she asked him to bring that gent in by name. Presumably wetting himself and wondering what fresh abyss he'd opened on this fine Thursday morning, he did so. She opened with a rundown of the diagnostics she'd been able to run so far, and what she'd need to diagnose the issue on the fly with them. After a quick review, they agreed there was almost certainly something wrong at her last mile node and they'd get back to her within the hour. Nope. I'm responsible for issues with companies, including yours, that run in the millions of dollars per minute of outage time. My contract with you is ironclad, and according to what I see here, you director's email is X. What personal assurances do I have that you'll have me an answer within 30 minutes? Guys, she extracted a T3 lead's personal cell phone number in under 8 minutes flat. Precisely 26 minutes later, she texted him a picture of the car that had taken out the hub servicing her apartment complex. At 29 minutes, she got a call from the lead, letting her know they'd forwarded it to their local knock techs and a truck was rolling. No Karening involved. She just bloody massacred these guys in seconds with pure tech, and all I can do is come to bear the tale of the day my boss won customer support. It's an hour later and I'm still just kind of sitting here in awe. My wife and I had an understanding. I do my hapless best on the phone, but if a call center wanted to play silly whatsits, I'd invoke our nuclear option and pass the handset to her. I have had a number of super frustrating calls with various IT companies, mostly ISPs. I have been in IT for 30 years in a variety of roles and am currently a senior analyst working for a large multinational bank on a large transformation project. I have hardware, software, and network experience. My go-to descriptor for many of these places is vendor help desk. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. I'm sure they have a desk and they seem to be at vendor, but no help to be found. The most recent one was regarding an issue with mail for a particular ISP that I asked to confirm the server settings. When they started directing me through the Windows config, I told them I was on a Mac and their immediate and only response from that point on was I would have to call Apple. How in the hell is Apple supposed to know the server settings for a random ISP? Just give me the damn details. It's not on your website in a readily accessible location. I service tech support for different devices, and I have to be honest, some of the worst and best calls I ever had was from customers who opened the call with "I've worked in IT/engineering for 25 years so I know what I'm doing." Sometimes I really can't help them, because the problem they are having is not related to the device we supported, but something else on their end, so completely out of scope. But because they have that experience under their belt, they assume all the TS they've done has proved the problem is with our device, and don't listen to our explanations that show the device is working just fine. Sometimes I can help them, in which case it is such a blessing where a call with a normal user might take 30 minutes. Their knowledge shortens the call to 10. I service tech support for different devices, and I have to be honest, some of the worst and best calls I ever had was from customers who opened the call with "I've worked in IT/engineering for 25 years so I know what I'm doing." I only did about 5 years of phone support for the hapless public, and the only thing I'd say, I've gone through the FAQ and tried X, Y, and Z. What do you suggest next? See, I was always in the opposite side of this ISP helpdesk monkey for a while. Field techs or other folks claiming to be IT folks would call, Yell at me but not know how to do a basic ping. It ruined their day in about 4 minutes. Lowest call times in the office as well. God, I don't miss that job. It's always the guys that tell you they're a network engineer within 2 minutes of the call too. Yup, conversations usually went like this. Caller, listen, I know you're scripted but I've already done it. I'm a sysadmin. Me, awesome. This should be quick then. For the recording I have to go through all this. Ping and tell me the results. Then a quick itconfig/release and renew and I can probably have you on your way. Caller, do what now? Me, well shoot, now I have to follow the script. We didn't have a script. It was just the easiest way to keep them from arguing. I'd say that's how it went 85% of the time. The times I did get a sysadmin or such, they laid their notes out and I'd be off the phone on 3 minutes. Yeah, when I speak to guys that really know their speep, it's apparent really quickly without them needing to tell me. Yup, especially the ones who spent time on an internet help desk. When I heard the term ISP/known for being jerks, why did the letters AT&T pop into my mind? Probably just a coincidence. No reason at all. Known for being jerks? Hey, known for being incompetent? Yup, they provided a managed service to our business where they provided a router connected to their fiber box. Their router was originally a Cisco router, but then when they upgraded our connection they replaced the Cisco with some cheap-ass Chinese junk. The new router lost IPv6 routing on a regular basis. When we contacted them they were like, IPv6? What's that? Nobody uses that. Well, we do. Duh. An updated firmware and a replaced router later, it still lost IPv6 routing on a regular basis. Finally I realized we'd gotten the documentation from their knock on what all the routes were supposed to be in that router, and we ripped it out, put our own router in its place with the correct routes in it, and all was swell. No more lost routes, no more scream test from the engineers in our office who suddenly lost connectivity, just peace and quiet. Until AT&T realized that their panel had shown us as offline for weeks, and their rep called asking if we were canceling their service. Nope, we just replaced your router with our own, and everything's swell now. But, you can't do that. We did it. And we're happy. Bye. And hung up on them. It's still running that way close to 2 years later. I'm sure we still show up as red on their panel, since we have no idea what SNMP MIBs they want to see and no interest in poking at their router to see what SNMP MIBs it reports. So it goes. We're happy, and if they're not, that's their problem. If they didn't want you using your own, they should have made sure theirs worked. Being a woman in tech support is its own goddamn headache. People are constantly questioning your knowledge and treating you like you're dumb. Good for her. If you really want to embarrass the assholes that question you because you're a woman, get a male and turn three-way him and then have him just ask you. They get to watch the man in charge who should just know because a man goes directly to the woman they just told off, then successively crap their pants as they realize they pissed off their only line of support. If you really want to embarrass the assholes that question you because you're a woman, get a male and turn three-way him and then have him just ask you. Been there, done that. Back in the days before I was IT. In a hardware store, you get the same effect. You can't possibly know how to fix a toilet because you're a woman. More than once, when I was a manager, I'd have a customer want to talk to a man who know this stuff, and I genuinely had to ask the female associate who had far more training in the particular department than me what the answer was. I never made any attempt to be subtle about it. These days, our cashiers know more than I do about household stuff, after all the years I've spent in IT. Not IT but same attitude. USAF basic training. Had finished training W/M16. Turns out I'm a decent shot and was awarded small arms marksman ribbon. M16s were modified to 4.22. We were at end of training so we were out of fatigues and into blues with ribbons. One lunch ended up sitting with several guys who asked about ribbon and I tell them. One of them then pops up with the brilliant statement, "Oh, I didn't know they allowed women to fire guns. I thought women are afraid of guns." Right score of 356 out of a possible 400 tells you how afraid I am. I had high scores in my electronics class, was only female on team that worked on B-52 weapon system and am 23 years in IT, mostly self-taught, yet still run into those who want to talk to a man. My aunt is a Marine Corps veteran and earned the rifle sharpshooter badge. Her brother-in-law, an Air Force vet, once made the mistake of claiming to be the best shot in the family. That lasted about as long as it took us to set up a makeshift range in the backfield. We had a store manager who was in the Marine Corps. She certainly had presence. We had two guys come into the store one day yelling at each other because one of them had nearly run the other down in the parking lot, because they were both drooling morons. They were clearly about to start throwing blows. I was actually heading to the phone to dial 911, and here comes Sue, charging between them. Ordered one to go shop, and the other to leave, and they did. I know one other person in the world, Also a former Marine, who could have done that without getting punched. Sadly, she was a terrible manager. That's why she's the boss. I love it when system warranties are with Dell Pro support. They might ask a few clarifying questions, but they know when they're dealing with someone who knows enough already and don't have a problem taking my word for things. When I have to deal with first-level script readers, if they're being particularly stupid and pedantic, and they won't let me just rehearse what their script tells them as I show I've already done all that, I'll give them a play-by-play from memory as they tell me to do X and Y and Z before they'll let me escalate to someone who actually knows. I just have to remember to put in appropriate pauses to simulate my taking the system through its stages. One reason I like working a client-facing desk is that I'm not actually given a script. Sometimes I have to be pedantic with the troubleshooting steps because if I don't, the ticket is just going to get kicked back and waste everyone's time. Like no speep, I get things looped back from level 2 for the dumbest reasons. Anything from my not having cleared browser cache or stored creds to here's some instructions on how to do our job for us that one ended up getting handled by my supervisor because peep that trash or being told to do the exact troubleshooting I've already done. But anyway, my point is that while some call centers do just get people that read a script and do nothing else, sometimes we're doing it even if it's not really going to fix things because we have to. I've had several sorts of client-facing desks, and none of them had scripts. I was hired because I demonstrated either aptitude or experience with the expectation I'd solve problems, or learn how to solve them. These were/are all first-level desks, but we essentially did level 1 and 2, at very least. I understand that economic pressures can result in very low-level desks that don't require experience or aptitude to get the job and instead rely on scripts that simply need to be followed. But that sort of position would never have worked for me, and I detest it when I have to deal with that level of support. I treat interactions with an unknown help desk as an RPG. They know the moves and so do I. We're going to tick whatever boxes need ticked. Then we're going to resolve the issue. And if need be, deploy a tactical escalation card to move to the next level of the dungeon when we hit the edge of their competence or permissions level.